Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web in his eyes, catches thieves just like fire.
I mean, it proves like way back then you could fix the elections.
But the best part is there's no absentee ballots. It's not like if you're in the Union Army and you just write a letter home and say, Clarabelle, make sure I vote for Jackson or whatever. I guess that's a little earlier. No, it's like wherever you are, you just vote there. So Hearst calls his general buddy and says, everybody come to camp in the Black Hills. There's nothing up here.
Right.
There's no rebs. I mean, that's all done.
Right.
The Indians are all dead. We're just up here for some reason. And then while we're here, 1,000 soldiers are going to vote
Right.
For
Harry.
Sheriff Harry.
Yeah. The farting sheriff.
The farting sheriff. I mean, it sounds fair to me. Mm-hmm. I think the only excuse, if you could excuse this behavior, which you can't, is they're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Still kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
The whole first season is about, and some of the second is about the fact that it's like, well, you guys aren't a state, you're a territory.
Right.
But we still want you to pay taxes, and we want all this to, become a business, the business of government. And so how's that going to happen?
Right.
And is this saloon guy going to stop killing everybody we send to set it up to happen?
Yeah.
And it's just like people trying to fight against the control of society, to live outside of it, whether they're free spirits or whether that society wants them for murder in New Orleans.
Right.
And then the second half of the show, Deadwood, becomes we've created our own society, and now an actor, not literally an actor, not Jack Langrish, but it's a robber baron from that society wants to transform this into, to eliminate the society we've made.
Right.
And so even though I've spent all this time escaping it or actively thwarting society so I could set up my own thing, we have to defend this ersatz community that we've made against these outside influences and threats.
Yeah, exactly. Against Hearst.
And a 3-hour movie? I mean, we got to go 3, right?
Oh, boy. I don't know. That's a long movie.
Yeah.
It's a long movie.
Well, 3's not that long these days.
I guess.
Yeah.
2.5, maybe?
2.5.
Yeah.
Let's say a tight 2.5.
Yeah.
What,
Sounds
everybody's
better.
going to look 12 years older?
Yep. That's true.
Having now seen all of Deadwood, but really only remembering the last season or so that you watched recently, your impressions, go. I want to hear Swearingen first, then Bullock. All your impressions. The first is like San Francisco, right? And then the second one is, you just talk like this, Saul. I won't be having this if you just don't move your perfect teeth at all, and they just stay like this.
Right.
Imagine you're talking through a mustache.
Right. Well, Swearingen, I think we talked about this before, like in the early seasons was kind of a villain, and he was kind of the bad guy that you were working against.
He not great in the last episode.
No, he's not. But he's, you don't want to be on his bad side. And I think he's a better person than Hearst is. Like, I feel like Hearst is like almost like pure evil. And that might be, the portrayal of Hearst may not be accurate.
Okay,
but
mental floss. Who are you writing for?
Yeah. Anyways, I love Bullock. I've always loved Bullock. Though he is a little bit like bullheaded, and he sometimes lets his emotions get the best of him. Like when he beats up EB, like he really didn't need to do that, but he thought that EB had said something to Hearst about him and Mrs. Ellsworth.
Yeah, but also I think Al makes the point when EB's convalescing that that was coming for a while.
Maybe it was.
Like it happened to land on Bullock's fists in his face, but he'd earned that beating over the course of 2.5 years of the show.
Well, he was, kind of smart alecky, and yeah.
And but even he were made to sympathize with him. He doesn't, by the end of the third season, really pull off anything heroic or selfless. But even we see that his arc has turned towards, I know it's my entire job to just S the D of whoever the most powerful person is, but F this guy.
Yeah.
And that's not how they talk on Deadwood.
No, it's not.
A lot of people have commented on the swears. And I read something when the show was on a while ago, probably Slate, the only place to go for intelligent conversation about TV back then, right? Mm-hmm. Which was that a lot of their curses would be blasphemes instead. That everybody basically got a church education, and so the real naughty things. If you really wanted to be profane, you would be literally profane. It would be taking the Lord's name in vain, and it'd be religious-based stuff.
Okay, sure.
And there would be a lot of literal tarnations and things like that. But it's stuff that either doesn't shock us now, the religious curses, or tarnation doesn't work. So it isn't a bit anachronistic how filthy they get, but it would have the same effect on a listener of the time. It's just they're just running it through the universal profanity translator for a modern audience to get the same effect.
Okay. I mean, that works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think that women... We're the Just Enough Troll podcast. I'm your host, Galban Jones. I'm my co-host.
I am Mika Hana.
Right there.
Yeah.
Running the bank.
Yep.
Do you think that women are underrepresented on the show? Or just the right amount represented?
I do feel like they're kind of underrepresented. I mean, the majority of them are whores or started as whores.
Right.
And then graduated to something else.
Yeah. But there's a sort of, there's a new acknowledgement of the fact that of the role that women played in the West, especially with what you're saying, starting off being in prostitution, but also being in this environment free from societal and even legal restrictions to raise money, own property, be represented in the community, and going from, making money however you make it to being businesswomen, being town leaders, even of themselves. If you've got a town like Deadwood that has no government, at least at the beginning, and runs mainly off its businesses, whatever you think of Al Swearingen, he is a community leader. He gets everybody together, they eat peaches, and that's kind of a town hall meeting. And so you'd have women that would be in the same position, if they were madams or owned, their own business or saloon, or like Mrs. Ellsworth with the bank. If there's any gold or any interests, any mineral interests, and you've got a woman that's involved, so she's running things that way. And I'm sure there were times where people were like, I don't want to deal with a woman or whatever, but a lot of times you'd come into town, and if you want to bank your gold or sign off your claim or whatever, you just have to deal with whoever's there. And so women are being accepted for those reasons. Non-whites are being accepted for those reasons. And so...
Although I will say that no women were invited to the town meetings.
No.
So, I mean...
Mrs. Ellsworth does not appear at the town meetings.
No, she does not. So, and I think that Mrs. Ellsworth was kind of an outlier in some ways. And I'm sure there were actual people like her. Maybe she actually existed. I don't know.
I don't think that Elma Ellsworth or Elma Garrett was a real person.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
But I'm sure there were people like her
she was definitely based on other people.
People who had claims who came by them either by their husband or perhaps their own
interests, family's interests.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that was important.
I think it was clearly important to the makers of the show.
Yeah,
because and it is something of a sausage fest, but it could have been straight up and down sausage fest.
And I think it was important to include women.
Yeah,
and you can't. Any way you could.
You'd say, okay, well, there is almost, well, not 1-to-1, but there is a lot of women represented in the prostitutes that work at the various brothels.
Right.
So what about digging into? It might have been a lost chance to dig into, have that be another ring of the circus. Do you know what I mean? Because usually when we go there, it's clear that they're just extras and not actors.
Right.
And it's just some new horrible revelation of the life of an Old West prostitute.
Right.
And they'd make a stab at that, pun intended for the future when we begin to focus on Joni and her rise from being somebody who was horror and then working their term and then working, in management, and then we're moving up to owning her own place. But then
being a madam.
That's where the stab comes in. And so that didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the makers of the show knew they had a big dude-centric thing on their hands, and I think they did, maybe not everything they could, but they did quite a bit to try to balance it out.
I mean, there is Jane, too.
Who's just such, I mean, she's definitely been in fiction before, but such an interesting figure.
Yeah, I know. Even though she was drunk a lot of the time.
I mean, but it could have been the Jane Gannery show.
Yeah, I know.
And instead, she is reduced to this figure who is just sort of on the outskirts.
Yeah.
And they did that on purpose from apparently in the historical account, or the historicity of her relationship with Bill, is that they weren't really close necessarily. They did come to Deadwood at the same time. Mm-hmm. And after he was killed, she certainly talked, like in the book she wrote about her life, she talked about him, and there's a couple pictures of her like by his grave, but they did not spend a lot of time together before they met at Deadwood.
Okay, sure. But I think, having her portrayal is also really important. She was never a whore, and, she was she was very much independent and definitely lived the frontier life.
Yeah, she was a scout for Custer.
Yeah. So, and then, I thought it was interesting they had Wyatt Earp and his brother in it for a little bit third season, but then they were there and then they were gone.
Yeah, I don't think they fit into the narrative that had already been set up. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, Earp had been present in Deadwood earlier than he is in the show, and when Bullock became sheriff, at the time, it was actually between him and Wyatt Earp.
Oh, okay.
Because Wyatt Earp had also been a sheriff previously.
Okay.
And I think it was a game of I don't want to do it. And people were supporting Earp because he was Wyatt Earp. He'd been a sheriff before. So did Bullock, of course. But Bullock did end up becoming sheriff after Earp left camp. Okay. And of course, Earp got into all that fun stuff down in the Arizona territories.
Right.
So, had his own thing.
Right.
So yeah. So anyway, predictions for the film. We're almost done. If people didn't watch this 12-year-old show, we're almost done.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of would like to see Hearst get his. I don't know if he's actually going to.
He's got to get his.
Yeah, but I don't want to see him running the town, which is what I'm kind of worried about.
Yeah, and he's pretty old. I don't think he was actually that old in real life.
Okay.
At this time, he doesn't mention a kid.
No.
So they might go alternate universe on this. You know what I mean? Because he's, spoilers for history. He's got to make it out of here to have William Randolph.
Right.
But if they don't do anything, he'll probably live anyway because the show has a pretty cynical, that is to say, realistic outlook. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that you just can't touch.
Right.
So I think it'll be one of those things where he lives, but people don't like him.
Right. Well, nobody likes him.
Nobody likes him anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you mentioned you don't think that there's going to be a huge town fight with
it's a movie.
The Pinkertons versus the Chinese.
I don't know if we'll get the huge showdown that the end of the third season was promising.
Right.
But it's a movie. I think that they'll add some action.
For sure,
some gunfights and stuff.
Yeah. Probably some throats getting slit.
Oh, yes. They'll just line up and Al just hustle down the line. And
yeah, I know.
Get them all.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Can't wait.
Yeah, I know.
Looking forward to it.
I don't know what I'm going to do if Bullock's not sheriff. That's going to be weird.
Well, he won't have to answer to anybody. Take the badge off.
Yeah, then he'll just beat people up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
says to Earp, because he's worried that, Earp is in town to cause trouble, and he says basically I put the badge down myself once, and it doesn't mean that I didn't want to beat on people. Still,
Right.
But I just being a sheriff means at least you're beating on the bad guys.
Right.
So yeah. So we'll see.
Okay.
Take that star off. Where's Hearst?
Do you think Utter will still be like deputy sheriff?
Yeah. Do they vote for that, or is that appointed?
think-
It's a deputy, right?
Yeah.
So I suppose that's appointed.
I guess.
Yeah. Maybe not.
I
Harry
don't
would be
know.
a fool to not keep him on board, though.
Yeah, he would.
Stop. We gotta stop.
All right.
Let's stop talking about this. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, though. Okay, so here's our show. We're going to talk about the news.
Yep.
We're talking about the big news, which is, of course, the recent passing of Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And so I think that let's just talk about that.
Okay.
Let's just let that be the show.
Okay.
In addition to a little smattering of news. It's the Merry Marvel Mourning Society.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sadly, but a life well lived, and a life that left more in the world than he, with us,
Yes.
than there was when he showed up
Yeah.
initially in the 20s.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get out the old impression.
Okay.
Don't just say okay. Say this is a great time to retire it.
But this, yeah.
Or this is
well,
a great time to refine it. Maybe it would become so good. You just hand me those smoked glasses. And I'll be the new man. I'll do it.
You'll be the new Santa
I'll take
man.
that on for you guys.
Okay.
I
All
will
right.
create horrible, stupid new properties.
Oh, no.
Like Stripperella.
Oh, no.
I'll do it. Allow me to develop a terrible property with TMZ and JC called Dirt Man.
No.
Dumb.
No.
It's true. It's all true. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Do the news. Well, like most comic conversations about Stan Lee, the name Jack Kirby is often said at the same time
Right.
for good reason. And I think we'll start off talking about that. We've heard about the possibility, or basically the announcement, without too many more details, of an Eternals film.
Yes.
And we have more information about that now.
Okay.
I should mention, for the purposes of full transparency, that this information comes from a company that I work for called That Hashtag Show.
Yep.
And they have an exclusive story about the lineup for the Eternals
Okay.
being revealed. Now, this is sort of insider information, so take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But apparently the cast, or at least the character lineup for the Eternals is out there.
Sure.
So who do we have? Eternals, of course, created by Jack Kirby for Marvel. Remember the New Gods? Orion, Highfather, Mr.
Sure.
Miracle, all those
Yep.
guys. Sort of like the Marvel New Gods, basically.
Okay.
Let's try it again.
Sure.
Let's see what we get. And so this is a 2020 film. It's planned for 2020. It'll star a woman called Karen.
Okay.
We don't know who it is.
Okay.
They're looking for any nationality, particularly a Middle Eastern, African, or Native American
Okay.
Looking
So
for an-
person of color.
actress in her early 30s,
Okay. All right.
or
Named
probably in her
Karen.
mid-20s, can play early 30s.
Right.
Because it's Hollywood. Can kick ass, but
All right.
have warmth.
Okay.
They're also looking for a male lead, only described as a Greek god, which seems to me to be, why are you trying to hide Hercules? Just
Right.
say Hercules.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Hercules, another guy that hangs out with the Eternals. There's another character by the name of Droog, or
Okay.
Drug.
Okay.
He is he was a Kirby creation, but he really became popular after appearing in Neil Gaiman's Eternals revival in the mid-2000s.
Okay.
So he has different powers. He can manipulate energy in the atoms of his own body and teleport and fly and all that good stuff. Actually, most of these guys can fly.
Okay.
Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Why not?
You're explaining them really well, so I don't have any questions so far.
Okay. Well, there's another character named Piper,
Okay.
a female 10 to 16 years old, described as a charismatic presence and a magnetic personality and wise beyond her years.
Okay.
And people think, and we're not sure, that this might be a reworking of the Eternals character Sprite, who I believe was
Okay.
a dude and was sort of the spirit of eternal youth, like the young but wise beyond his years.
Okay.
Kind of figure.
All right. I guess I could see that.
Yeah. There is another character called Elysius. Marvel's looking for an actress 20 to 40.
Okay. Big range.
Yeah. I don't think they know exactly where they want to go with this.
All right.
But anyway, she is a character who is an artificial being that was created by Isaac, which is the sort of the sentient computer, HAL of Titan.
Okay.
Titan in this case, I guess, is a planet.
Okay.
And not the moon of Saturn.
All right.
As is established by the people who can't read star charts or a map of the solar system.
Great.
That created Infinity War. But anyway, and she's kind of a weird character. I think she might be a newer character. Not 100% sure. Don't know a lot about Elysius. The Forgotten One. Male, age 25 to 45, to play the Forgotten One. The Forgotten One is Gilgamesh.
Okay.
Literally the historical, or I should say, mythopoetical character of Gilgamesh.
Really?
Yes.
Why are they called the Forgotten One?
So remember, these are the Eternals.
Yeah.
They are essentially immortal.
Yeah.
They sometimes walk among us, but not often. They live on Titan mostly. But the Forgotten One was cast out of Titan. He was thrown out of the Eternal Society. So he came to Earth.
Okay.
And as a superpowered being, he sort of wandered Earth and ended up becoming the hero of many legends. So he was the historical figure that Gilgamesh, was based on.
Okay.
Gilgamesh. And Enkidu.
Okay.
Darmok and Jalad.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And he's been sometime Avenger and worked with the Fantastic Four kind of on and off, but not much.
Okay.
Of course, Ikaris will be in it. Male, 20 to 40. He is sort of the Superman of the Eternals. He's young, blonde, good-looking, kind of the face of the team.
Sure.
And he can fly around. He's super tough. All the Eternals have a general suite of powers. They all have like a thing that they do, but they're also much more durable than a human, stronger.
Right.
Most of them can fly just for the hell of it.
Isn't Thanos an Eternal?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He is part Eternal, part Deviant.
What's a Deviant?
Deviants are mutant Eternals.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right.
And he also has psychic powers, but so do all of them. They all kind of have psychic powers. Thanos has psychic powers when they remember to use them.
Right.
There's also Makari. This is a male, 25 to 45. He is the Flash of the Eternals, basically.
Okay.
He just runs real fast.
All right.
There's Cersei. They're looking for a female, 20 to 40. So basically just your sex at this point, because 20, 40, whatever.
Yeah. They all seem to have a wide age range.
Yes. She is... she's named Cersei, so she might be the Cersei of myth. I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
But she tends to have sort of charmy, magical type powers to affect minds. She's kind of like the Enchantress.
Okay,
if
sure.
Kirby's going to repeat himself, I guess, from the Asgardians.
All right.
She also has an affection for humanity that most of the Eternals don't, so she likes Earth and likes to live on Earth.
Okay.
As does Star Fox.
Okay.
Brother of Thanos, a.k.a. Eros. Male, 25 to 45. He is Thanos' brother.
Yep.
He has been an Avenger for a long time.
Okay.
And here's his power. He can control people's moods and emotions.
Yeah, that seems dangerous.
Yeah.
That does not seem like a good guy's power set.
He's Eros, the god of love.
Okay.
Or maybe the god of date rape.
Oh, my goodness.
Only the courts can decide.
Oh.
Yep. She-Hulk Volume 3. Check it out.
Problematic.
Yep. There's also Thena, actress 20 to 40, being sought for Thena. Thena is Athena, basically.
Okay. Alrighty then.
The Eternals are sort of like super mutants, kind of. They're the same stock as humans, but they were altered to have these amazing abilities. And so some of them were born on Earth. And Thena was born on Earth during the Grecian, mythical period.
Okay.
So she became this warrior that was sort of the basis of Athena.
Okay.
And she's got crazy powers too. She's invulnerable basically. She can shoot lasers and she can do all this stuff. Yeah, this is part of the thing is that maybe I'll finish the list here. The last one, is Zuros, of course.
Okay.
Zuros is the son of Kronos and Dinah, basically the Zeus, or Kronos, I guess, of the Eternals.
Okay.
And he can create force shields, and there's this thing called the Unimind. It's all... So now we'll get to my problem with it.
Okay.
The problem is, this is really out there. This is weird.
Yes.
And I can't remember if we talked about this on the show. Maybe not. But if you look at the Marvel Universe, you start off with, I sure hate Nazis, punch.
Right.
Then you move on to, I'm a spider guy, and I've got to get a date. It's tough to get a date.
Right.
Right. And then you move on to, I was born out of a cocoon, and the Spirit Stone allows me to fight literal death.
Right.
And all this weird stuff.
Right.
And I'm a eternal, or I'm a Kree warrior who came to your planet to destroy it, but now I defend it, or whatever. It just starts to get weird. Like the cosmic stuff comes in the 80s or 70s. Forget the 80s where everything gets gritty, and the 90s where everything gets gritty with a triple X.
Right.
And I'm wondering if the Marvel Cinematic Universe will have a similar evolution. Because we've gone from, hey, remember, I'm the guy that threw the rats out of the car?
Right.
And now I'm a superhero?
Right.
And that's my character?
Right.
And I've got an iron suit, to, what are we doing now? Snapping fingers and the universe dies? Half of it dies?
Right.
So will it follow... It seems to be following a similar thing. I mean, the success of Guardians and the success of Thor Ragnarok has definitely proved, at least to Marvel Studios, that audiences are willing to accept crazier things.
This is true.
Things we have no context for.
Yeah.
Things there are literally no cinematic context for, because there is no Planet X, there's no half-world. We bring all these characters into Guardians, and you just go, they're aliens. You got it. Figure it out.
Right.
So now we're going to have to hit a point, which they may have already covered in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know. I don't watch it.
Right.
Where you go, they're humans, but they were kidnapped by ancient astronauts, ancient aliens, and given superpowers, and now they live on another planet. Are you good?
Right.
Let's get the movie going.
Right.
What do you think? Are you ready to learn a whole new list of things that people can do?
I think it's a lot for audiences to accept. I think it's a bit of a leap, to say the least. I think it's doable because Guardians has taught us, we can accept things that are weird and are different. But I think you and I talked about this before. Even in Guardians, Star-Lord was like our audience surrogate.
Right.
With this, I don't think we have a way in. I don't think we have an audience surrogate per se.
Karen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Whoever Karen is?
Yeah.
Not Karen Page.
And that was a long list of characters. That's a lot of characters to squeeze into one film.
Yeah. That's not Tony, Happy, and Pepper.
Right.
That's a whole team already.
That was like, what, 10?
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around 10 characters. I mean, that's a lot. Even in Guardians, like the original Guardians, it was like 5 main characters and then the bad guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we could get there, and maybe with Captain Marvel, maybe we'll be one step closer to that. I'm not sure. I think it's entirely possible to get there. I'm just not sure what they are going to do to make that smooth transition.
And you, smooth transition. It's not a song. And you just mentioned Captain Marvel, and remember, Captain Marvel is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about
true.
something completely different now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Kree messed with the Inhumans, which is another thing too.
Yep.
The Celestials, I think, messed with the Eternals and created the Eternals.
Okay.
So you've got a whole nother world that we're going to meet in Captain Marvel that we have to swallow, which will have, unless they change the backgrounds, we'll have no opportunity to help get us into Eternals because it's a totally different venue.
Right.
They may mention... Oh, do you ever been to Titan? Oh, they're weird there. We don't go there. But that's that's it. That's like Stephen Strange mentioning Stephen Strange.
Right.
And why does Sitwell know who Stephen Strange is?
I know.
Did he get his spine worked on or something like that? So, yeah. Yeah, okay. That's. I think you made some good points.
What do you think they're going to do? Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. I mean, I know I've read some of the Kirby Eternals.
Okay.
I've actually read more New Gods. I've read the Gaiman sort of reboot.
Okay.
Which is not terrible, not great.
All right.
I like the John Romita Jr. art.
Okay.
But it was that sort of mid-2000s where Gaiman was like, he was under contract with Marvel. Actually, he probably wasn't under contract because I don't think he does contracts. But he was writing, he was going, I'll do comics. I'll do comics.
Sure.
So he was doing a couple Marvel books that were all fine. I think he was exploring and kind of trying some stuff out. But none of it ever really screamed. I didn't want to come back every week to see what Makari was up to. Like, I didn't really... There was no hook. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Remains to be seen. But
yeah.
If Marvel has proved anything, they can make anything work.
That's true.
But as history and just life has taught us, nothing lasts forever.
That's also true.
So people prophesied doom and gloom. Every single movie I think that came out, people have been saying, oh, is this the one?
Right.
So I'm not saying put any faith in them failing, but of all the, is this the ones, this is the onest of the ones. If you get my meaning.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest leaps of faith.
Yeah, we know that Infinity War 2, whatever the title is supposed to be, will smash the record of Infinity War 1.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
But after that, and all of our favorite little faces either leave or move to TV.
Yeah.
What
I know.
then?
I know.
What then? Well, I'll tell you one thing. Speaking of TV, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to be on.
I heard
the
that.
6th season premieres next summer, and it has already been renewed for a 7th season.
Which is crazy to me.
Yes.
This thing has like 9 lives.
I think that it seems like, oh, this is so hot, we got to get another one right away. I think this is a sign of course, their faith in it, but also a sign of the end. Because when they pick it up this quick, with the next season not even out yet, it gives them an opportunity to make, like 2 shorter seasons. So they'll be spending less. And also, once you've planned it out, like you know everybody's coming back.
Yeah. Then
you can write your finales. You can close up all your storylines. You can, pack it all up.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
I think
true.
7 that's respectable for a show. I stopped watching a long time ago. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I know. Somebody must be watching it, though.
We always say that.
I know.
Fish.
Yeah, fish.
They can't get away. They're stuck in the tank.
It's like Dog TV or something.
Dog TV. Is there a channel called Dog TV?
I think there is.
There should be.
I think there's a Cat TV channel, too. So.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Can cats... I was always told when I was growing up, maybe we should move on, but just give me this.
Okay.
That dogs couldn't watch TV, or at least they couldn't see it like we do, because their vision works differently, and the way that old style TVs, the gun, the ray gun, the electron gun would paint the picture. Dogs wouldn't see
well, that could be
the same motion that we do.
Yeah.
But now with flat screens, I think we all just see the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people, too, like, their dog will hear, like, a doorbell or a knock, and they'll start barking, on TV. Yeah, so.
Can you program Alexa to tell your dog to shut up every time it barks?
Probably.
Because
that's kind of traumatizing.
Well, everybody worries about everything, but people are always already coming up or having the concern that children can interact with Alexa. I was going to say being raised by Alexa, but children interact with Alexa.
Yeah.
So the last thing, and it's all coming like this. Every single thing that we have to worry about, every day it's a new Black Mirror episode.
Right.
But it used to be like, now a kid picks up a book and swipes on the paper and nothing happens, and they're like, what? The new thing is your 2-year-old is talking to Alexa, asking it to turn Shining Time Station on.
Right.
Maybe not to. I get that 2-year-olds aren't very verbose, but then they're going to start talking to inanimate objects.
Right.
Just expect them to talk.
Sure.
But by the time those kids get to 10 or 11, every object will talk, right?
Right.
So what's the point? What's the problem?
Yeah.
There's no problem.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of somebody who can't talk,
Yeah.
man, I'm good at this. Cassandra Cain has been cast
Yeah.
for the 2020 Birds of Prey movie.
Who was cast?
Are you ready to get excited?
I don't know. Am I?
An actress named Ella J. Basco.
Okay, I have no idea who that is.
If Basco sounds familiar to you, it's because she is the niece of Dante Basco, and I say Rufio, Rufi.
Oh,
You did it.
Rufio.
You did it without even wanting to do it.
Rufio's niece?
Yes.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well, I guess we'll see how good she is in Birds of Prey.
Well, he's a actor and martial artist.
Yeah.
And Polynesian or whatever, Micronesian. He's
Something
Pacific.
like that.
Yeah. So that looks good.
Yeah.
I assume that she karate kicks too.
Yep.
And, Agents Like Good News, Bad News got a big role for you in a Margot Robbie movie.
Right.
Bad News, you got no lines.
Right.
Because you can't talk.
Right. Oh.
That expression that you gave me, you seem really mad. You're very expressive. I think you're perfect for this role. So I don't know. We'll see about that.
Okay.
What else is going on out there?
Sad news.
Before we get to Stan Lee, William Goldman has died.
Yes, I heard about that. The guy who wrote Princess Bride.
Bush Cassidy.
All
All the President's Men.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is sad news.
Yeah. Filmstruck has also died.
Filmstruck?
The channel that a lot of his films are on.
Oh, okay.
No, but Filmstruck, good news, is going to be revived as the Criterion channel, is what I've heard.
Oh,
which makes
okay.
sense anyway.
All right.
So we'll see. My thing was, it's too bad that Filmstruck went down, but here's a bunch of famous movies that people love but don't necessarily have on Blu-ray. A lot of them are on Blu-ray.
Sure.
There will always be people who will pay you money to watch these movies. And so no company is going to let those properties lie fallow. And
Sure.
So, yeah, we'll be okay.
Okay.
Can we talk about Star Wars? Pedro Pascal has been chosen to lead the Mandalorian series.
I heard that.
Yeah.
So that guy is like everywhere lately.
He is in a movie that you just saw.
I know.
That is an independent
Prospect.
movie called Prospect that no
Yep.
one has seen. And then
Okay.
also he has been hired to do this. So yeah, I guess he is everywhere.
It seems like he's everywhere. I don't know. I heard a name and I heard it again. So I just feel
Yeah, it's like when you learn a new word and then
Yeah.
suddenly you just hear it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's who he is. That's who he wants to be for
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah. All
So
right.
tired of people talking about this. Pascal. Used to be a programming language. Now it's this.
You heard about that Pascal? Man.
So that's good news for him. I wonder if he will be a similar type character.
Oh,
Do you know
so
what I mean?
like
Kind of a Chilean Mal Reynolds type, like he is
Okay.
in Prospect.
sure.
Because he's not that in... there are no cowboys in Dorne, I guess, but he's
No.
maybe cowboy-esque.
Sure.
So I thought that he was an interesting choice for Prospect, but the right choice.
Yeah.
It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he brings that gunslingy sort of air to The Mandalorian, we might have
I think that could work.
something nice on our hands.
Yeah. I don't know. It's shaping up, so maybe it'll be pretty good. Who knows?
I hope that that is true. What else have we got going on? I wish I had more of an update on the next season of Taboo.
Oh yeah.
The kind of big news, I don't. The big news is that the show will be heading to China because Chinese media conglomerate Alibaba has made a deal with them. So, and with Scott Free that produces it, of course.
Uh-huh.
And so the show will air in China.
Okay.
No, they're not gonna.
I thought you were gonna say
Well,
like
hey,
season 2 is gonna be in China, and I was like, whoa.
He's a well-traveled guy.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I wouldn't surprise me. It could be in the cards.
Okay.
You're going to see this more and more. I think people are... Well, let's get your opinion. What do you think about this? What do you think about Chinese money being all over our entertainment?
I don't have a problem with it as long as like they don't like restrict distribution or anything like that.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people I don't want no Chinese taking over my. Who cares?
Exactly.
They've been making movies for a long time.
Yes.
Hong Kong has great movies.
Yes.
And like the Meg, for instance, it's here's what I don't like. I don't like how cheesy the commercials are. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like clearly there's a lot of like new money sort of running around in their kind of airsats trying to be capitalist society. And so you get something like a lot of money goes into the Meg, for instance, for it to be set in China. And a lot of it is, except for this giant fictional shark that's eating everybody, what a great place to spend a vacation with your family. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Fine. Go check out China. Awesome. But it's such a cheesy commercial. Or like when Iron Man lands in China and says, well, I'm glad I got to meet the guy from China. He's great. Love you, Iron Man. Yeah, you're great too. It's like it's cheesy.
Yeah.
But that being said, yeah, this is great. You know, it's a great cultural cross-pollination, and I hope that it seems like people are more bullish on it than they were on the fact that, Japanese were buying, they're going to own us. You know, by the time we reach Blade Runner, it's going to be geisha ladies on every building, eating sushi. It doesn't seem like we've got that for the Chinese thing this time around. Mostly because I think we learned to just love it and then cash the checks.
Right.
to let a little bit of cynicism sneak in to my excitement over seeing more Chinese stars and movie makers being involved in Hollywood, but.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that season 3 of Taboo.
Yeah.
So he goes to Nootka Island, and then he steals a ship and keeps sailing and reaches China. Perhaps they have an herbal remedy for his throat.
Hyundai.
Woo. Hyundai. Swearjin.
Yes.
Bringing it back.
Yep.
Real quick note, I don't have anything else to say. The headline is Microsoft buys Obsidian.
Oh. Are you happy about this or not? I mean, Obsidian was like...
I don't know how to feel about this.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
It's not as bad. If you said like EA buys Obsidian, not excited about that. That'd be real bad.
Yeah.
Activision buys Obsidian.
Yeah.
Didn't they already spend time with them? I can't remember.
I don't know.
But anyway, Microsoft, I don't know enough about the game business to know how they treat their subsidiaries.
Okay.
I just think in general, conglomeration bad.
Right.
But if Obsidian, a studio who makes great stuff, but has been close to getting washed out a couple times, maybe having a corporate parent is the way to go. They took Minecraft and they just turned. Speaking of horrors on Deadwood, they just turned that thing's ass out. You know.
Right.
So maybe we'll get a new Obsidian IP that will go forward. We'll get some more work for Carrie Patel. Who knows?
Yeah. Right.
So could be good, could be bad, but of course it'll be bad initially because lots of pink slips.
Oh.
Right. That's the way acquisitions
you're
go
probably right.
and mergers. Yeah. So that's not too great, but we'll have updates as we go on that. And one more story that's good news for a friend of the show as we close out here. 2 TV series, count them, 2, based on the Wild Cards property are being developed at Hulu.
Oh, fun.
Yes. The friend in question is Melinda Snodgrass.
Yep.
Who is not that good of a friend because she's known about this for 6 months. She didn't tell me.
Well, she probably couldn't talk about it.
No, she couldn't absolutely couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But it has been set up through Universal Cable at Hulu, and it's going to be 2 different series.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And there is plenty of material. The Wild Cards.
They have a lot of different stories.
Is a anthology universe, which is nominally superhero, but it's also sci-fi and other stuff. So.
Yeah. Very cool.
As we know, it's always good for a book. Books can be great, but the second they get even a crappy TV show, that means a lot more books sold.
It does. Yeah, for sure. More publicity.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yep.
I'd say free publicity, but it's not really free.
No.
A lot of money goes into making TV shows.
Yeah. So
the only free TV show was Huell-Hauser's Huell's Gold, right? Or whatever. Or I think Wayne's World was free, right?
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stand a little straighter, walk a little prouder. Be an innovator. Laugh a little louder. Go forever greater. We can show you how to. And when will you be?
How do I say goodbye to yesterday?
I don't.
Boys to men.
Oh my gosh.
4 boys are hit by radioactive rays. Causes them to grow to men. Maybe like that.
All right, sure.
What do you know about Stan Lee?
I know
Boys
that
and men.
he worked at Marvel for many years. He started out, I think he was a page or something.
He basically worked at Marvel for most of his adult life.
Yeah, and like he started out small and then he got bigger. He got a writing job and then he started writing comics and
Yeah, he started off. He was born in Washington Heights, and to a family not rich, and got a job. He graduated. He was very smart. Graduated high school early, 16, and got a job as a page, or a copy boy at Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I think his cousin was married to Martin Goodman, the guy that ran Timely, which was Marvel back then. So who doesn't hurt,
right?
And he always wanted to write. He always had these big ideas, and of course, his name is Stanley Lieber. And when he got a chance to finally write something, when they had these comics back in the day, in the early 40s,
mm-hmm.
they'd be thick. And we know that because we read a bunch of them for this segment. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they would publish several stories in them. And the thing was that they had to be a certain thickness or a certain length in order to qualify for the cheap freight rate, for the medium mail rate.
Okay.
So that's why, Millie the model or Nellie the nurse or whatever would just go on for pages and pages and pages. And it's like, editors are asleep at the wheel here.
Right.
Come on, you could tighten this thing up.
Right.
No, they want it to be long.
Okay.
And then if it reaches a certain length and it's not long enough, then it's, hey, Stan, we need a 2-page text story about Captain America fighting, the Nazis or something like that.
Right.
And so that was his first published thing. He wrote a text backup story for Captain America issue 3.
Sure.
And this is Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, of course, doing Captain America.
Sure.
And he always wanted to save Stanley Lieber for his great American novel that he was going to write one day.
Okay.
And so he said, I want to be Stan Lee. Credit me as Stan Lee.
Sure.
And so that's what his credit was.
Okay. And that stuck.
Yeah, and that stuck.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the market is booming. All kinds of men in different colored pajamas are punching Nazis.
Right.
And so we need writers. We need stuff, And so, come on, Stanley, what else you got? And so he's like, what about this? What about this? And then we're creating all kinds of things. And, of course, his boss is relative, and so he's not going to get fired. And so we moved into management, editorial at that point. And, and had, several different phases to his career, because we're talking about the early days here.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's time to punch Nazis for real.
Right.
And
then he went and fought in the war.
Yeah, and he went to the war, and he was working for the WPA, the Federal Theater Project.
Okay.
At that time, or before the Timely work, and so he wanted to be a playwright, and he's involved in that. And so when he joined the Army, he got involved with I can't remember what it's called, but it's the the film services,
okay,
or the Signal Corps, basically.
Okay.
And so his thing was the Signal Corps is for telegraphs and communication, but he ended up in the film department. So they're creating propaganda, but also training films, instruction. This is your weapon, this is your gun, that type of thing, and making movies that way. So he got to hone his chops, writing short scripts, for 10 to 15 minute film type things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
Meanwhile,
really cool.
But Jack Kirby, he's out drawing pictures of German occupied French villages as recon, and he did it first.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was his military classification was playwright.
Okay.
And I think there was only like a handful of people who actually ever had that actual
their
classification.
Classification.
That's their MOS. Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. A lot of those guys, Kirby, Lee, if you were an able-bodied man in your 20s working on comics, you weren't working on comics for a couple of
During the
years
war.
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kirby was drafted. I can't remember. I think Stan volunteered.
Okay.
And there's a story about how Kirby, and I think Simon too, they knew they were probably going to get drafted. I think Kirby was drafted like 43.
Okay.
So in like late 41 or 42, his boss was like, well, you guys just got to make an extra year's worth of comics.
Wow.
You just got to do it in advance.
Okay.
Because you're going to go off to Europe.
Right.
And I need at least a year of stuff to run.
Wow.
Whether or not you get blown up by a mortar round.
Gee, thanks.
In the Battle of the Bulge. Yeah.
Super sensitive.
This is not a show about Jack Kirby. But
I know.
We should do a show about Jack Kirby. We'll just do it, we should have done it first because he did it first.
And he passed away.
Well, I'll
first.
talk about that for a second.
Okay.
And we're going to discuss that when we talk about the works that we've chosen to discuss of Stan's today.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people talk about how, Jack Kirby got screwed.
Yes.
And Steve Ditko got screwed by
Right.
Stan. And the thing that I always think of is, if you've got three guys that create something, three guys made the iPhone, let's say,
Uh-huh.
and two of those guys leave the company to do something else,
Right.
and one of those guys stays with the company and puts on a turtleneck and his name's Steve Jobs,
Right.
who gets the credit for the iPhone?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, nobody's like Steve Wozniak's around, but Steve Jobs gets all the credit for creating Apple
Right.
because he's still there, and also he's in the management of the company. He's like the mascot of the company.
Right. Right.
And so, Stan came back after the war, went right back to Timely, which is now Atlas,
Mm-hmm.
and now superheroes aren't that exciting because people are sick of punching Nazis, and so
Right.
we're doing romance comics, we're doing westerns, we're doing all that kind of stuff. And he did all that stuff. He just went, all right, we'll do that.
Right.
And so now he's writing these comics, and he stuck around. And so the 60s come around, and it's like 1961, 1962, and Stan's 40-something, and he's got a kid now, and he's like, I want to quit. Why am I still doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And his wife, Joan, said, well, I'll tell you what. You've been telling me about all these crazy ideas. Why don't you do one more? Do it your way, and if they don't like it, they fire you. You're going to quit anyway. And apparently that's how I created the Fantastic Four.
Right.
So
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's the guy that, and it's not to say that Jack Kirby didn't stick around. I mean, Jack Kirby did a lot of work all that time. But I think
Right.
after Stan became the guy who was the editor, also the guy answering all the letters and writing the soapboxes, he thought of himself as the creative force behind this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, if Jack's not returning your calls and you guys are fighting and somebody asks you if you created Spider-Man or not, you're going to say, yeah, I did.
Right. Right.
And later in his life, Stan, especially after Kirby died in 94, Stan did everything he could to remind people that Joe Simon was working on this. Steve Ditko was doing this. Jack
Right.
Kirby was doing this.
Right.
But I think the damage was kind of done at this point.
Well, and I read it recently after he passed. I think there was like some article that was written up about Lee kind of around that time, and it kind of helped perpetuate the view that it was just Lee who had created such and such characters,
Yeah.
and it kind of, helped make the way, like, the damage was kind of already done at that point.
Yeah. And it was also, and I read the article you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I read the article that it's referring to.
Okay, sure.
Back in the 90s, and
Yeah.
a lot of it was around, late in his life. Well, actually, all through his life, but definitely late in his life, Kirby was trying to get money and credit for having done this.
Right.
And now you bring capitalism into it, and a company like Marvel, who doesn't want to give away any of its rights, or
Right.
potential money to stuff, and so they're going to do everything they can to push Stan as the most important part of the creative team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, because they don't want to give you any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it isn't even because this is what's so evil about capitalism, maybe different show, maybe different network, but it's a company doesn't get rich by giving money to two other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They want to protect their interests going forward.
Right.
If they say, sure, Jack, you can have 50% of whatever we make. Well, now Jack is worth $750 million after Infinity War.
Right.
Stars half the characters he created.
Right.
And more to come.
Right.
With the Eternals.
Exactly.
And the Fantastic Four.
I know.
And everybody else.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I come down on that. Like, the damage was done. Monies have been paid to certain people. I know Ditko definitely died last year. Still feeling very bitter.
I think he was earlier this year.
Or excuse me, this year. Still feeling very bitter about the situation. And so I feel bad for everybody who feels burned.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not
but
a great situation.
Vox.com. Don't try to put that on Stan's head the day after he dies.
I know. I really don't appreciate people like dissing him when he hasn't even been dead for a week. It's just not cool.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, Mr. What's his name?
Bill Maher.
Yeah, Bill Maher.
So edgy, Bill.
Seriously.
That's the only way you can get hits?
Yeah, I know. You just diss a huge, well, maybe not, but you just diss everybody who reads comic books and a great creator,
Yeah, but Bill has always shot his mouth off without knowing what he's talking about. And sometimes you get a guy saying that guy's not wearing, the emperor's naked or whatever.
Right.
And sometimes you get an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And you can blame the time that Bill grew up, the 50s, and, Frederick Wortham and the Seduction of the Innocent and taking all the adult elements out of comics and making them just, what little Darla or whatever is doing
right.
For 20, 25, 30 years. Infantilizing the medium, so it was just for kids.
Right, I guess.
Who knows what would have happened if that asshole had never written that book? Who knows where we'd be? Mm-hmm. Maybe comics would be more respected. Has Bill Maher never read Mouse? Has
Probably
he never read
not.
A Contract with God?
Probably not.
Has he read The Dark Knight Returns?
I doubt it.
No, so he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And, yeah, there you go.
I know.
Let's talk about Stan.
All right, let's talk about Stan.
I forgot about Stan. So anyway, whatever percentage was involved, he has at least 1% in the Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, the X-Men, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, the Inception. A lot of characters from the Avengers are from other places, but the idea of the Avengers, Stripperella, no, I'm just kidding, and so on and so forth. And that doesn't even count characters like Zombie and just side characters that aren't marquee names.
Right.
I don't know. We might get a movie these days since they're making everything into a movie, but
it's just incredible.
It's Marvel Revolution.
The number of characters he helped create.
Yeah.
It really is.
And a lot of that, and I will say, I've spent all this time talking about how great Stan was and his contributions, but a lot of that was also right place, right time.
Yep.
And you can, if you want to give him one thing in his, give him two things. He always kept going and he never gave up until he was ready to give up. And you can argue that there were inklings that, and I'm not a comics historian, but you can argue that there were inklings that the market was going that way. It was ready for the X-Men. It was ready for Iron Man and Daredevil and so on and so forth. Right. But he was the guy that did it still.
Yeah.
And even DC, who was doing stuff like that, had to catch up once Spider-Man, once the Fantastic Four were out.
Yes.
And then this is where I take a little bit away from him. He did have a bullpen of writers and artists to fill in and to continue to create all this amazing stuff. Although, to be fair, he wrote 100 issues, of almost all those titles going forward, setting the stage for 60 years of stories to come. Mm-hmm. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he really was an amazing creator in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Had a wonderful imagination. And
yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
you wouldn't go that far?
No, he clearly did, but he's also, as somebody who sometimes creates stuff myself, perspiration so much more valuable than imagination.
You think so?
Especially in a serial medium, a monthly or quarterly medium like comics. Just keep pumping it out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And as long as you have stuff, because think about how comics work. Is it the return of the something?
Right.
Like, as long as you've got something in your universe to draw on, or another character, bring him in, cross-pollinate, just keep going. He wrote the newspaper strip,
Yeah.
which was no good. It's
Yeah.
a bad example. But he still wrote the newspaper strip, the Spider-Man strip, for 45 years or whatever it was. So
I know.
as long as you just keep plugging away,
Yeah.
you'll just have something to build on.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not like Image Comics where you're like, we got all these cool, badass heroes that are rip-offs of other stuff, and I'm bored, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And your universe kind of falls apart.
Right. No, it's not like that.
No, but not Youngblood, though.
No.
Bad Rock will always be there for us. So we wanted to talk about some of Stan's many, many, many creations.
Yes.
But not the names that I just named.
Right.
Things that you wouldn't necessarily have heard of. And things that would even predate, his golden years with working with Kirby,
Sure.
in the early 60s.
Yep.
And so we came up with a couple
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the Destroyer?
Yeah, let's talk about the Destroyer.
The enemy of dictators.
Yes.
Which is potatoes that look like penises. But, yeah, the Destroyer, back in the early days when it was called Timely Comics, they had a title called Mystic Comics.
Yes.
And at this time, they were anthology stories.
Yep.
Like, this is how we got, like, Batman and Detective Comics. I haven't read Detective Comics 39 or whatever it was in a while, but Batman was in there, but so was some other stuff.
Sure.
And you get the same thing with these old things. And so the lead story in Mystic Comics number 6 was the story of the Destroyer.
Yes.
Came out in October of 1941.
Yeah.
So we're not in the war yet.
No, we're not.
Close.
But we're fighting Nazis in the comic books.
This guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes over to Germany. He's a reporter, I believe.
Keen Marlowe.
Yeah. And he is imprisoned for trying to get, like, information and stuff like that. He gets imprisoned by the Nazis, I believe, in this prison camp.
Yeah.
And a professor.
He's a newspaper reporter.
Yeah. And a
Where'd
professor.
that come from?
I know.
Does he wear glasses?
And a professor gets put into the same cell as him.
Yeah.
And he won't share his secret with the Nazis. But
He's got a serum.
Yeah.
Also sounds familiar.
Yeah. So he gives the serum to, what was his name again?
Keen Marlowe.
Keen Marlowe. Yes.
I don't know. The guy's mother was English, okay?
Yeah, right.
Possibly shades of, Stan's real life. Joan, his wife, was English, married an American. Her first husband was an American serviceman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Although that was in like 47, though, right?
I don't know.
Was he married at that time?
That is a good question.
Yeah. Maybe he just had a... No, he didn't marry Joan until 47.
Oh, okay.
So he was an Anglophile.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So he gives the serum to Marlowe, and he has to give him a specific code to take the serum so it doesn't poison him.
Yeah, it's in like a capsule that is rigged to blow if you open it wrong or something.
Exactly.
It's complicated.
And so he takes the serum, and when he takes the serum, he becomes the Destroyer.
Well, he becomes Captain America.
Right,
basically. But then he decides to put on... this is a reach. Is this a reference
costume.
to something? Yeah, he's got pinstripe pants. Mm-hmm. He's got a skull and bones. That's cool on his face. On his thing. You can not trademarkable, but... And then he's got like a cowl type hat thing.
Yeah.
It's apparently like a full mask, but then it's got like a pointed hat and then like wingy ear type things.
Yeah.
And it's a tunic.
He looks otherworldly.
He looks weird. He looks almost like a court jester or something like that. It's sort of like a doublet and
yeah. Doesn't he have like big like boots? Like the part that goes around his legs are kind of like swashbuckling boots.
Say that one more time.
Swashbuckling boots.
Swashbuckling boots?
Yeah,
I think he's got swashbuckling boots.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the wrong destroyer there.
Oh, the image that I'm pulling up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that from Thor, the first movie?
Yes, that's the destroyer armor.
Yes.
No, this is the typical flared gloves.
Yes.
And then also boots. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's got tough. He's tough. He's strong.
He's faster, stronger, like can pull a punch more.
Make it, yeah.
Yeah.
And he hates Nazis.
That's
He hates
right.
dictators.
That's true.
What'd you think about the German pigeon in this?
You mean like the way they spoke German?
If the American come with me.
I mean, as long as I could understand it, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it was real on the line.
So, I mean, there were some words I'm like, well, I don't speak German, so I don't know what the heck that means.
Yeah, right.
So, but, I mean, as long as I could make it out, I was like, I guess this is fine.
Yeah. Jack Bender, who's brothers with Otto and the other Bender who did Captain Marvel for years, was the artist on this. I really love the art. It's very kinetic in that sort of what would Kirby-esque style.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is intentional, but he can't draw swastikas. He's drawing them backwards. That's fine. Whatever. Who cares? But swastikas are all backwards. That's fine. Yeah, and it's a lot like if you've ever read Captain America of this time. It's very similar. I was going to say
it's
just nonstop. He's like, I'm going to get you ratsies. And then he's like, Ach du lieber Captain, now you've fallen on the trapdoor. Oh no. Right. And then he's got to swim through the alligator thing, and then he comes up later and he throws an alligator in the guy's face. Oh no, I got an alligator in my face. And, yeah, it's just keeps going.
He I think he doesn't he get the guys back who had captured him and the professor and stuff like that, and then he's like, well, I'm all done with that, he's like, I think I'll stick around and keep fighting the Nazis, so I'm gonna stay over in Germany. Right.
Doesn't he get a sidekick who never ends up doing anything?
I don't think I read that part.
Is that this? He rescues a woman named Florence?
Oh, I mean, I think he rescues somebody, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember her fighting.
No, she doesn't fight. She doesn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's just like an agent, and you think oh, okay, maybe she's going to help him out. And he goes, all right, well, you're safe. She's like, right. And he's like, oh, I got to check this out. She's like, okay. And she just kind of, at least in the first issue, she just kind of stands around. It's like, oh, yeah,
don't they get something in on the radio? And he's like, I've got to go.
She's like, yeah, you do.
Yeah. I'm helping.
Should I cook or something?
Somehow, yeah.
Right. Yeah, he one of his early antagonists is the Scar.
Oh, yes.
Who creates this ray that will just instantly kill you.
And he's the only one who can operate it?
It's DRM.
Right.
There's no comics code, but we're not going nuts with it.
No.
Right? This isn't like the early 50s, like the Spectre, turning men into human candles and then lighting them and then just screaming as they melt.
Oh my gosh.
It's not that thing just yet.
No.
But so he is stopping these Nazis, but stopping them by punching them up real good.
Right.
But yeah, this guy's got a ray, and remember, we're not in the war yet.
Yeah.
And the book actually makes a point of this. One of the reasons that Keen Marlowe goes over there is that we don't have any information about what's happening. You'll notice there are no stories about him, say, liberating a concentration camp, because we don't know there are concentration camps.
That's true.
And so the only information we get is from the German propaganda service. And so he's literally just going over there to go I'm going to write some stories about what's happening over here. And they're like, Ach du lieber, you shall not.
Right.
Nein. And so, yeah, the Scar is hired by the Nazis to use his death ray on people who want food.
I know,
German
that's
citizens
terrible.
who are like, please give us more rations, we're starving. And he's like, zap, dead.
I know, it's awful.
Yeah.
And
remember, we're not in the war.
I know.
And there are a lot of American elements that are saying, just leave it. It's a European war. Just leave it.
Right.
But Stan Lee is a Jew from Washington Heights, and he's like, screw that.
Yeah, I know.
Excelsior.
Right. I'm going to hurt these guys.
Yeah.
Well, and then the Destroyer's like, I bet we're going to find him at another food line.
Let's stake out this line where they're handing out clothes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So anyway, it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Very Captain America.
There is, yes, as were a lot of the heroes that show up in the pages of Mystic. In this book alone, there was also a story about Black Marvel.
Yep.
Who is like Superman figure, basically.
Right.
A guy named the Terror, who's
kind of
a Batman-y kind of guy.
Yeah.
His face becomes like a vampire zombie's
yes.
face when he gets angry.
Yes. Like just physically turns.
Yeah. And then Blazing Skull, who's kind of another Captain America-esque kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're trying a lot of stuff out.
Yeah,
they're bouncing a lot of stuff around. He didn't create those characters,
no.
but he did create characters like Jack Frost and Father Time at this time. Post-war, he comes back, and it's all romance now.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want superheroes; they want other stuff.
Yep.
And so he creates a character called Nellie the Nurse. It's a lot of girls with alliterative rhyming jobs.
Yes.
And one of the characters that he created at this time was called Millie the Model.
I thought you told me he didn't create Millie the Model.
He didn't create Millie the Model, but he wrote most of everything you would know as Millie the Model's story and backstory.
Okay.
She was actually created by an artist called Ruth Atkinson.
All right.
And she also created Patsy Walker, or co-created Patsy Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She was really one of the unsung first great female comic artists from the 40s and 50s.
All right.
She retired when she got married, as women do.
All right.
It's horrible. But yeah, she created Millie the Model. She created Patsy Walker, like I said, who was she wasn't Hellcat at this time.
Sure.
But didn't really write for the characters. And so Stan, wrote most of the stuff. Now, we wanted to read some of the original Millie comics from the 40s.
Right.
But we couldn't. Mm-hmm. Because the romance comics, at least at that time, they're not Captain America. They're not even the Destroyer, or things like that. So they're not collected.
Right.
Collectors didn't collect them.
No.
And you have to remember, at this time, collectors were barely a thing. They weren't really a thing. It wasn't until...
Wasn't a thing for comics.
Read Comic Shop, Dan Garino's book. It wasn't until later on that people start thinking of, oh, let's hold on to these things.
Right. They could be worth something.
I've been reading early issues of Doom Patrol and from the Silver Age, and you read the letters page, and half of the letters page is just them publishing calls from readers. Hey, I got 89, 93, 102, and 107. What do you got? And people and publishing people's addresses, which you'd never do now.
I know. It's just so weird.
Trying to set people up, with other people who want to collect these things.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do that because it didn't exist. But the first Millie stuff that I could get my hands on was from 56.
Okay.
When Marvel was Atlas. It's the series A Date with Millie.
Yes.
Which is a sort of reintroduction to what's going on with Millie in the 50s. What is going on with Millie in the 50s?
She's a fashion model, so she's modeling a lot of clothes. I thought it was interesting, kind of going off of what you said. With Millie, it would be like dress designed by, and it would have somebody's name and their home address.
Yeah, they would accept reader designs for the clothes.
And that was like in almost every panel. It was like her design by, and then like, who is her friend who is kind of a jerk? I can't remember her name.
Clicker?
Right? No.
Oh, her boyfriend's Clicker Holbrook.
Yeah.
Chili Storm.
Chili Storm. That's it.
Yeah.
She's kind of a bleep.
Whoa.
But, she's very jealous of Millie and doesn't hide it. And Millie's kind of sassy back to her.
Yeah, every heroine or even hero had to have a foil like that.
Yeah.
A villain.
I really enjoyed, I can't remember what they call it now, but they had, there were a couple of like, Millie was mostly like 1-page like issues.
It's almost all just 6-panel, 1-page things.
Yeah.
That's a thing that would go down to Archie comics as well.
Yes.
In the 50s. Of course, the art on Date with Millie is by Dan DiCarlo.
So
the guy who didn't create the Archies, but his visual style defined or came to define what the Archies would be.
And it did remind me of that. So that is interesting.
And that was pretty typical, I think, for these comedy or romance comics. Well, not romance comics, but like these comedy comics at the time. It would just be boop-a-doop, 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 punchline.
Yeah.
Like these sort of Mad Magazine kind of setups.
Well, and I really enjoyed, they had a couple of different ones that were like 4 panels, so they were like 1/4 of a page, and they were rhyming.
Yeah.
Like they rhymed. And they were clever, and then it would be like a joke at the end.
Yeah.
And there was one about how she really liked wedding rings and that sort of thing, and isn't that great? And then Clicker was talking about getting her a ring, and she was so excited, and then it was like from a carousel or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So, but I really enjoyed that. I thought that was like really clever and kind of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that part.
And there's other characters that kind of come by. My Girl Pearl comes by. She also had her own series. Chile got her own series later on too.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm sure that you can go out and go, "Hey guys, I need a rhyme for ring."
Right.
But this is 40 pages, and it's Stan. He's doing all the jokes.
Yeah.
He's writing all this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they do like little like Family Circus or New Yorker cartoon 1-panel type things.
Yes.
And so it's like funny, joke.
Yeah, and it was a quick, fun, easy read.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
So
Not going to change anybody's life.
No.
It certainly didn't.
It's not earth-shattering.
No.
But
model no more. Millie throws the dress in the trash can and she's walking down the alley.
Right. So
in dungarees.
Whoa,
she really doesn't want to be a model anymore.
I guess not.
Yeah.
No, but I thought it was a fun read.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we got to read some of the earlier stuff, but
yeah, I wanted to read some of the more romantic, soapy type stuff too.
Sure.
Or like they're being chased by spies or something like that.
Sure.
A lot of that stuff, guys like Roy Thomas and Denny O'Neil cut their teeth doing that.
Okay.
In the 50s. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do a Millie show someday.
Okay.
Talk about her all the time. Let's move on to another female hero created by Stan from the pages of All Select Comics, going back to 1946.
Mm-hmm.
All Select Comics, issue number 11. This is with Timely Comics. A character called Louise Grant Mason, a.k.a. the Blonde Phantom.
Yes.
Co-created with artist Cy Shores.
Yes, she wears a slinky red dress with her midriff cut out.
It's vaguely Asian. I'm trying to think.
No.
For the period, Oriental would be okay
Yeah.
to say. It's not really. Don't say that now.
Yeah. And then she wears a black mask, kind of like
Domino mask.
A what?
Domino mask. It's
Yeah.
called. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't know why.
Yeah, and can't tell she's his secretary because she's not wearing glasses and she's wearing a mask.
It's very Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it
Just,
is.
There's a lot of appropriation going on. And to be fair, Diana Prince really liked that Steve Trevor, too, when she wasn't getting tied up or tying somebody up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, she works for Mark Mason
Yes.
of the OSS.
Yes.
Which was the military intelligence division. It's like the CIA, basically, back then. And they're trying to foil spies and no-goodniks and evildoers and that whole thing. And I should say that Cy Shores was like... I'm trying to think of things if he created anything himself. He basically, before Kirby left, he got in a fight with Goodman and left Marvel, he was like a backup for Kirby. Like he was a finisher or inker, and so kind of cut his teeth, aping Kirby style, backing up Kirby.
Sure.
And then he would continue to do that when Kirby came back to Marvel in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And as a character, I like Blonde Phantom. Now, Millie still exists in the Marvel Universe somewhere.
Right.
They have actually brought the Destroyer back. He's actually been a couple different guys in sort of the legacy hero style.
Okay, sure.
And I think Roy Thomas or somebody did a Invaders comic in the 70s. The Invaders are the 1940s heroes that like fought. They're invading Germany. They fought like Hitler or whatever.
Sure.
So it'd be Human Torch, Submariner. Why Namor cares about human wars? Who knows? The Nazis throw more trash in the ocean than the Allies do. And then the Destroyer and things like that. So, guy can throw fire. Guy's superhumanly strong. Guy punches people.
Right.
Come on along, Destroyer.
Right.
At least Miss America can fly.
Right.
But anyway, but I like the Blonde Phantom. I like the spy aspect of it.
Yeah, I do too.
And I don't know if this works or not, but I think a modern reading of it, it's not so sexist. Back then, female hero who's in love with her boss and can only is this perfume? Like can only apply female related things to the mission. Maybe not great.
Right.
But looking back and going, okay, now that women can vote and everything's fine. Maybe it's okay to have a female character who is concerned about things that traditionally you would go, why does she care about her boss? I don't know. She likes her boss. He's like a strong guy. He's a patriot.
Right.
All the reasons that you would look for in a boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
And maybe she uses her wiles. Like I like the fact that there's this big society party and she just goes as the Blonde Phantom.
Yeah, I know.
And people are like, wow, the Blonde Phantom's here. She's like, that's right, boys, line up. And she's, sort of using this character to put people off their guard and to infiltrate, these sort of things in that way.
Yes. No, definitely.
She does get knocked out and tied up twice.
She does.
But she's not. That's what Mason's for. He's the two-fisted puncher.
Right.
She's going to figure out the clues.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah. And she gets caught in the first story that we read because her dress gets snagged on something. Yeah. Which is like, she was getting away. And then
not great.
That flaky dress just, woo.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's, Well,
yeah, I know.
Hazards of the job.
Yeah, exactly. But
I like the fact that they were partners.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he works officially for the OSS and she just shows up. It's sort of it's like Batman and Gordon. Like Gordon's like, oh, we got to check out this crime scene. And Batman, who does not work for the police department, is like, Jim, look under his fingernails for whatever.
Right.
And he's like, oh, thanks, Batman. It's like that. Like the Blonde Phantom shows up and he's like, oh, I'm glad you're here. Check this out. I've got this. And what do you think this means? And she's just consulting, It's
right.
I think it's a neat dynamic.
Yeah. Well, like in the first story, she tells him, check the type of water in so-and-so's lungs because it's probably not river water.
Yeah, they find this guy. They think that he's had an accident and drowned. Mm-hmm. And she does the thing which, nowadays on CSI we would have thought of immediately.
Right.
But, like, check out the water in his lungs. I think he was drowned in a lake instead of in a river or whatever.
Right. That it was like, she said like it was tap water or something like that.
Right.
But, yeah. And they were able to narrow down where they thought she would be by like the water.
Yeah.
So
it's it's give and take.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the fact that it's not great, but one of the bad guys is a sexy woman who likes Mark and she wants to defeat her because she's evil, but also because she doesn't want her to get Mark.
Right. And she was like, am I being too jealous? Like, she was like trying to check herself and like.
I don't know. It feels human to me.
Yeah.
Like now you've got the whole cliche of like, I'm a tough lady and I don't care. And also I can bench press a building and I'm going to punch somebody else. And that's fine. But I just liked it. You may not like all the dimensions, but she has, 3 dimensions. She's got she's more than 2D.
Yeah, no, for sure. I enjoyed the Blonde Phantom.
I'm sure they ruin it at some point.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
In the same way that they ruin Rita for me.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
She's what hurts about it is not knowing. If they just went ahead and changed Elastigirl into a cake baking, Dumbo, that'd be fine. But they keep you on this razor's edge. Like they've married her off to Mento now. I'm reading Silver Age Doom Patrol. And so there's the argument about, Steve Mento is like, no woman of mine's going to be running around fighting Monsieur Mala or whatever.
Right.
And so she's like, all right, honey. So like, and she runs out and does it anyway. So like he's sexist, but she doesn't let it stop her. So I'm like, is that sexist?
Right.
I don't really know.
Right. It's kind of frustrating.
I'm not won over yet.
Okay.
They'll be dead soon. I'm only about a dozen episodes away from their last issue.
When they'll be dead.
I'll have an update on that later.
All right.
Let's move to the big one.
Okay.
So as we were researching this, I was looking which characters should we do, and I came up with Millie the Model and discovered that Stan didn't create Millie the Model.
Right.
I wanted to stay away from co-creations with Kirby, but I thought, how could we pass up 1962's or 63's Howling Commandos?
Yeah.
Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos.
Yes.
The origin of one Sergeant Nick Fury.
Yes. With no eye patch. That comes later.
Yeah, that does come later.
So.
And this is post FF, so the Kirby League team is kicking.
Yep.
It's also post World War II. So now you've got two guys who were literally in World War II coming back to write stories about World War II. Yeah. And you'll notice they don't do the if the prisoner does not do the they don't do that stuff anymore.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're just like kicking butt. I didn't really recognize any of the Howling Commandos except for Dum Dum Dugan. So I don't know if like they changed the lineup over the years or like
they do some. Some of the characters make it through. Gabriel is still around, I think, or was a while ago. There's definitely like if you read something like Secret Warriors, like Hickman did Secret Warriors, and he made sure to include Dino and Gabriel and Junior, and to show probably the horrible lives or horrible deaths that they all experienced at the hands of Hydra, after the war. But yeah, those characters are around still. Okay.
I mean, in Captain America, like, were any of them besides Dum Dum Dugan? Am I just not remembering correctly?
Oh, you mean like in the
film?
MCU films?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But again, we don't have a connection to that still.
Yeah.
Because we haven't dropped the shoe yet.
The shoe yet?
On Samuel Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Being in World War II.
I know.
When are we going to do it?
I don't know.
When are we going to do it?
I don't know.
Say what again? Say I don't know again. So I wish they would.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. What'd you think? I mean, I'd ask you what the plot was, but Sarge and the commandos foil the Nazis.
Yeah.
That's the plot.
Pretty
and
much.
They do it for like 40 pages.
Yeah.
It goes on for a long time.
And they are trying to save a prisoner who knows the day and location of D-Day.
Right.
And which the Nazis are trying to get that info from him.
Right.
And he's like, no, I'll never tell you. And they...
Maybe the existence of D-Day?
Yeah.
The fact that we are going to invade?
Right.
Otherwise just be ready all the time, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, whatever.
And the Nazis supposedly have his daughter, but then he finds out that was false.
That she is part of La Resistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she helps the commandos get there and everything. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like, Sergeant Fury is just this unstoppable brick house force.
Right.
Who...
I like how they do the thing, too, where... he yells, but it's so loud it's not on a word balloon. He'll just he's get these gold prickers off their asses. Let's do this. And then there's just a panel where Dum Dum's just like
covering
holding his head
ears.
on. Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's just like a oh, you know what? Agent Carter has some of these characters.
Oh, okay.
And you said before I wasn't thinking, but yeah, I bet some of these characters are the characters in First Avenger.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, but of course none of them survive to the present day. In Marvel Comics, we've come up with excuses why a lot of them are still alive. Because of course they all make it to, in the mid to late 60s, we've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so it's late 40s. But it doesn't matter because I've got the Infinity Formula Fury working with an older Gabe. Dum Dum, who they must give him the Infinity Formula because he never ages. Like he's still just Dum Dum. So I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, but like I said, I think just Sergeant Fury is just kind of this unstoppable force, which is not
much of a character just yet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he gets rubble, like just completely covered with rubble, and when everybody else, it looks like they're going to be their last, he like throws like a grenade or whatever,
Yep,
and like
it's pretty much every issue.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a revisionist look at World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a multicultural team of commandos. Yeah.
Right.
Although color Gabriel as lightly as you can to not offend racist readers.
Right.
But he still plays the trumpet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Hey, your name's Gabriel.
Yeah.
What are you going to pick up? The clarinet?
No, I don't think so.
You're not Jack Benny. Okay. Okay, pal. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like I said, he does that for a while. Holland Commandos was always, I think, kind of like a second in line to like Sergeant Rock, over at DC.
Okay.
Which started in like 58 or 59.
Okay.
So it's kind of coming up after that. But it's like, we've got a long tradition of World War II heroes at Marvel or Timely. And so why don't we have a World War II book?
Right.
And we're not going to do a Vietnam book.
No.
So then, of course, as soon as we can, we turn that into flying cars and spy stuff as soon as James Bond starts to break out.
Sure. Yeah.
Which, we're not talking about that this issue. But if you want to read some weird tales about Doctor Strange doing stuff and Jim Steranko just killing it with some Nick Fury action, check that stuff out for sure. Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff. Last one?
Last one.
Let's go back to the old West.
Yes.
Not that far back, though.
Right.
1848.
Yeah.
Or 1948 instead of 1848. And talk about Clay Harder, the two-gun kid.
The two-gun kid. Yep. He has two guns, and he sings about it.
He sings a dumb song about it.
Yeah, he does.
Don't quit the day job you're currently doing, Stan.
Yeah.
What? Tell me about the two-gun kid.
He has a horse named Cyclone.
He does.
He comes into this town like a whirlwind.
Is this the song? Are you singing the song?
I know.
He wishes he had 4 guns.
Yeah, I know.
But he only has 2 hands.
Yeah.
And I'm like, teach your horse to shoot guns. just strap him to your horse.
Right. He like goes into the saloon, I think, with his horse.
Yes.
Which is strange.
Yes.
Like, you're introducing yourself to this town in a strange way there, guy.
Oh, I forgot to mention, sorry to interrupt, in the Howling Commandos, there were some backup stories, too. Wasn't there? There was a Miss America story?
Yeah, I think so.
And a character called Mr. Wu that I don't really want to talk about besides
or
just
was
saying
that
Mr. Wu.
Was that?
Or no, sorry, yeah. I
that
meant in the All Select. All Select, yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's not enough room. We're just
with
howling
the
with
Howling
some commandos.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Miss America, who's like a female Superman, basically.
Right.
And Mr. Wu, who's Charlie Chan. He's just Charlie Chan, basically.
Yeah.
So anyway, he brings his horse into the saloon.
Yep.
And there are 2 Two-Gun Kid stories in this first issue that we read of Two-Gun Kid number 1.
Yep.
From March of 48. And if you think in both stories, Two-Gun rolls into town and there's a guy in a waistcoat that's bullying people around.
Right.
And he shoots Two-Gun in the left arm and Two-Gun shoots his hand to make him drop his gun. In both stories, you're right. Now, as far as the other fill-in story about the sheriff, can't say. Didn't read that one.
Right.
Got to read those Two-Gun Kid stories.
Right, that's right.
I bet it was pretty similar.
Yeah, I bet it was too.
Yeah.
Similar tone.
This is Jack Kirby too, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, or it might have been Dick Ayers, but it's one of those two.
Okay.
It's hard to tell because I think Kirby is still, it's not all square faces and that one splayed hand that the Watcher does. I'm not getting down on Jack Kirby. I love Jack Kirby.
I know.
But it's still early, and I think he's trying stuff. And so, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Jack Kirby.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong.
All right. Well, and then he
Would you read a whole bunch of these?
Maybe. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Deadwood in some ways.
Does it?
Well, I mean,
How?
It's the West. I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's somebody bullying people.
Yeah, I guess.
So
I guess a lot of this is, I think Stan was thinking about like the Gene Autry, musical Roy Rogers-esque characters. It's not like Two-Gun pulls out a guitar or anything like that.
No.
But he definitely sees himself as a traveling
musician,
troubadour, and tumbleweed that can't be held down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He the bully in the first one. He, like you said, he shoots his hand, and he goes on this rickety bridge with his fiance, who was trying to flee him, and he was trying to hurt her. And the two-gun kid is like, well, I can only save one of you, so I'm going to save the girl.
It's another, Gravity was the co-murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you, Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, good.
Yeah. And the girl thanks him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy's an asshole.
Yeah. He was.
But what about the power vacuum in that town?
I know.
Now what?
Well, now will he get some service from the blacksmith now that guy's dead?
Hey, I killed your boss.
Yeah.
Can I get my horse shod now?
Can I stay at your hotel now?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So, 5 different books, 5 completely different heroes. I mean, if anything, you could say that these heroes are slightly derivative. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why they didn't break out like something like Iron Man or Thor. I mean, Thor is literally he's the god,
right,
mythological figure,
right?
But still, yeah. I mean, he's clearly inventive. He's clearly willing to work in different genres, do a lot of things, and I think that's just that thing of somebody's got to do this,
right?
I just got to do this. People are thirsty for content. We need X amount of books to fill out this order,
right?
So just what do we got? Do this, do this, do
right.
this.
He must have written quite a few books each time, like each month, each week.
Oh yeah.
I think he was probably a very busy
He wanted
person.
to be a novelist, so bad, and ended up doing this instead.
He ended up doing comics. Did he ever write a novel?
I was looking at that.
Okay.
I'm sure that he co-wrote books about, I have a million books that have Stan Lee's face on them. Because
sure.
It's like Stan Lee's Guide to Superheroes,
right,
or whatever it is. But yeah, I can't think of anything that he wrote. He must have.
He must have, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he look for Stanley Lieber.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, I was thinking about the Wasp and Ant-Man, and boy, so much stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of stuff.
Anything else to say about Stan the Man Lee?
I
mean, we're gonna.
I think
whether he's here or not, we're gonna be talking about him for.
I know.
For as long as we're doing this,
I
for
think
years.
that there's a big hole left in, the comic book community with him gone, and to some extent the Marvel movie franchise.
Well, I think it's funny that for all of the things that he created, for as long as he's been around, and so, as much as he's done for comics and the industry, more people know his name, his face, from the films than ever did from the comics.
Yeah, you're
and
absolutely right.
that speaks a lot to the power of the medium of film. Even the people who remember him, he would do the intros and outros for the Amazing Spider-Man show, the not Super Friends, what were they called? The Spider Friends.
Sure.
Or the Fantastic Four Iron Man shows, it'd be like, hey, true believers, we open on a dark night in the city. What lurks in store? We'll find out.
Right.
This human drama. And he'd always be talking about something, doing, I don't know, copy that he might have wrote. I don't know.
Right.
He might have been riffing off the top of his head.
Right. And I think it's interesting too how they recorded quite a few of his cameos before he passed.
Yeah.
So he's going to have cameos in the next upcoming Marvel films, like at least the
What's
next
the last
3.
one? Do you plan a last one?
I don't know.
Did we talk about what I think they should do? And this is way too soon. Do the thing where whatever the final battle is, we have Thanos kill him.
Oh.
And it's really just, there's so much bloodless. Hold on, keep the blood out. But there's so much consequenceless, victimless violence in these films,
That's
and
true.
so we know that Thanos has, through his actions, caused half the universe to disappear and essentially die. But like, what if there's some kind of big fight and there's a real human cost to this last fight? Like they're fighting, Captain Marvel shows up and they're fighting Thanos on Earth, and like they're trying to save people, but things are being destroyed, and we've all been soured on this after Man of Steel, but a sort of taste of the Man of Steel sort of violence where it's like, this is too much. We kill him, whatever we do, we've got to stop this guy now.
Right.
And, Stan Lee stands up to him in a kind of never to men like you, kind of thing, like from Avengers. And he's like, all right. There goes Stan Lee.
That would be really sad.
And then we're like, oh shit, this is real.
Right.
It's kind of, in the way that Stan sometimes did, it's kind of borrowing from a DC moment in the Superman the Animated Series, when you've got the character of Dan Turpin, who is based on Jack Kirby, and he's a cop, and he works in Metropolis, and like Darkseid comes in and basically starts to take over Earth, and he's got Superman under mind control, and so they've got no defender, and he's like, give up, I want really your world now. I don't know why Cookie Monster is playing the role of Darkseid, and Dan Turpin's like, whatever you do, we're going to stop you. We'll fight to our last breath. And he's like, so be it. And poof, Dan Turpin explodes.
Oh, man.
And everybody's like, oh, shit. This just got really real.
Sure.
That would have been just not too long after. It might have been before Kirby died.
Oh, really?
So maybe just one more time, steal something from Jack Kirby.
Oh, no.
Not for real, though.
No.
So anyway, I don't know. For me, I just don't know how to feel, and I still think I haven't processed it. And as far as the impact of it, yeah, we're all watching these movies based on stuff that he created, but he hasn't really created anything
for a long
important
time.
In 40 years, maybe more.
Oh, that's true.
So it's just like, yeah, it's weird to not have him gone, but it's almost weirder that nothing's going to change, really. You know what I mean? You feel like the sun should stop or something like that.
Right.
And the truth is that, he hasn't really been relevant for a while. As a brand ambassador, he's done a lot. And I think that's been great. But glad that we went to see him that time that we did.
I am too.
Yep.
I'm very grateful. We were very lucky to have gotten to hear some of his stories.
Tell
live.
those stories one more time.
I think it was the Spider-Man story.
Have I told my Stan Lee story on the show?
I don't know if you have.
I'll tell it really quick. I was at the Chicago Comic-Con, I think before it was a Wizard Con in the mid-90s. And I was there with a friend of mine who studied at the Joe Kubert School. For people who don't know, Joe Kubert, famous Marvel artist, created Kazar and a lot of other stuff. And basically the fact that the school is in Dover, New Jersey, which is right across the river from New York, which is Marvel, meant that a lot of your teachers and faculty would be creators at the time, people who were creating. So you'd be taught by this guy or that guy. My friend knew Andy and Adam Kubert, the sons of Joe Kubert, who went on to, of course, be creators in their own right.
Sure.
And so when he went to Chicago Comic-Con, instead of us just looking for bootleg Dragon Ball DVDs, or it wasn't even DVDs back then, VHS tapes, or whatever, we were going from table to table. And he was like, oh, this is Alex Ross. Oh, nice to meet you, Alex Ross. Or,
right.
Hey, this is Jim Kruger. It's Billy Tucci. It's Joe Quesada. All these guys who were hot names, then, but are even bigger names now. And at one point, we were hanging out as the con was closing, and so people are closing up their booths, and really only like creators are still around. And Joe Quesada comes back, and he's talking with us, and he's like, hey, we're all going out to dinner. We're going to go get some steak across the way. So, come out if you guys want to come out. There's going to be a ton of people there. So we're like, this is amazing. And he says Stan is going to be there.
Right.
We're going to get a chance to meet Stan Lee.
Right.
And have dinner with him. And we're in 20, 21, early 20s. We had $200 when we started this trip.
Right.
Across the Midwest. And we probably got $50 now, if that, after buying Ghost in the Shell scale models and whatever else we got. And so we drive over to this steakhouse, and I'm getting more and more nervous as we get closer to the steakhouse. And we finally pull into the parking lot of the steakhouse, and I'm even more nervous. And it was in it wasn't like just a restaurant. It was in like the basement of this like office building.
Mm-hmm.
We go into the lobby, and I'm more nervous. And I'm like, I don't know. Do we have money? I don't know if we can do this. Should we? I mean, can we eat with Stan Lee? This is so strange. Will I scream at him for stealing things from Kirby? No, just kidding. And we start to go down. There was a spiral staircase to go into this steakhouse, and I can smell the steak now.
Sure.
We're going down this spiral staircase, and I don't know why this bugged me, but there were, like there is in many steakhouses on the wall, pictures of famous people who have eaten there and then said, yo, Vinny, keep it medium rare for me, or, Tony Bennett or whatever.
Right.
It's a lie. We know Tony Bennett eats them well done with ketchup. And so we're going down, and I'm seeing these other famous people, and it's igniting even more the nervousness and anxiety in me about meeting a famous person. And we finally hit like the last step of the spiral staircase, and I'm like, oh, we gotta go. I can't do this. I think I spent too much money on that Shaolin soccer tape or whatever. We should probably go. I don't think that we can. I gotta go. He's like, you sure? There's right over there. No, we're gonna go. And so we left.
Oh no.
Yeah, we did not. We went back. Drove back to the Motel 6 on the other side of the train tracks where we were staying, and I think I fell asleep reading that one Batman annual where he fights the crime Batman.
Okay.
Whose parents were killed by cops.
Great.
Yeah, we did not meet Stan Lee on that day.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah. Would it be a better story if we had?
It might have been a better story if you had.
If he had signed my face and he had created a sidekick for Stripperella called Nervous Boy or something.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
But yeah, I mean, but the thing is that he would do that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody here is here because of you, and they're definitely picking up the check, because this is before Marvel's bankrupt at this point, or nearly bankrupt, then of course you would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what always got me about him is that from anybody you talk to, that's the kind of guy he was. He would talk to you, he would shake hands, he would go out with everybody, he would tell his stories, he would be there until closing. That's who he was.
Right.
And, if you like him for nothing else, like him for his affability, and what a nice guy he seemed to be.
Yeah.
Whether or not he had spider powers. So, yeah, that's it, I guess. And now Jack Kirby can yell at you in heaven, I guess.
There you go. And Steve Ditko.
Yes.
You guys can all have a conference of the
two
minds.
guys waiting with pipe wrenches in heaven.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys will all work it out. So Excelsior, Stan, and thanks for the memories.
March along, march along, march along, march along to the Merry Marvel Marching Society.
All right, that's it. Boy, every time we try to make it a short one, it never is.
No,
and we didn't even get to talk about the new issue of Fantastic Four that came out.
Yes.
By Dan Slott and Sarah Pichelli. So we'll have to push that to next week. So come back for that. Also come back for a review of
the favorite.
The one I like. The favorite. Yeah, with a U.
Yes.
Because it's British.
That's right.
The Yorgos Lanthimos movie that we've been building up to this whole time.
Yes.
It's a Fox Searchlight film.
It is.
Mika.
I know.
He's gone Hollywood.
I know he has.
This is the beginning of the end.
Oh, don't say that.
And we'll talk about whether it's a Yorgos movie or an Emma Stone movie.
Oh,
and you
no.
know what my opinion is on that. But
I
we
know.
will get there next week. Until then, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Just Enough Trope and join the conversation. Got any Stan stories? Got a better one than mine? I'd sure love to hear it. Share with us your stories about Stan and the works that you enjoy of his that have touched your heart. Join us on those social media platforms. Also, follow us on the old iTunes and the Google Podcasts and the Plays and the Ploops and the Plops, the Stitchers and the Stotchers and everything else. Subscribe to us because the show comes right to you.
That's right.
It always comes out Sunday night, every day. But It comes right to you. You don't have to go hunting for it, to your pod-catching software and device of choice. And for that, we ask something in exchange, that you leave us a review and a rating on that platform of choice, be it whatever it is. We want that review because we want to know how you think we're doing, and we want to hear what you want us to talk about in the future. And the rating really for the services. When you give us a high rating, then we move up in the ranks. We get noticed by those services. However those algorithms work, we move up in them and get exposed to more people. And so for that reason, we need 5 lungs that are filled with heavy tap water.
Oh my gosh. I know. They specifically said heavy tap water, didn't they?
Yeah, right. So it's like, is it heavy water like what gave the atom his powers, or or he gave him, or it's a heavy flow from the tap. It's like how the guy dies, presumably in Civil War. Zemo puts him in the sink,
right?
And then that tap is going to fill up with water.
Right.
It's like a tap,
right?
Not the kind of love tap that the Thing might give to Terrax. No, this is the tap,
right?
So, it's very confusing.
It is.
So we'll work that out later.
All right.
Yeah, give us 5 stars instead. We'd appreciate it. That's it for us. We'll be back next week to talk about The Favorite. And until then, we are signing off. I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Excelsior!